The following podcast is the views of two men, two incredibly honest, ruggedly handsome men, who professionally wrestle for a living. If you disagree with the views within, that is cool. If you become an idiot, Shane will probably put you to sleep.
Check out the name tag. You're in my world now, Grandma.
Gus and Gus Eat the World and Its Money. Brought to you by our good friends at ProWrestlingTees.com, where you can get great designs from yours truly, J-Rocc Daddy, and the big homie, Shane Taylor. Whether you want to get the one-punch Shane, knockouts for everyone, or many of Big Shane Teasy's designs, go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Shane Taylor. And of course, yours truly has the Give It Up One Time shirt. Popular logos on there mixed in with the Big Daddy of Destruction flavor. All of that and more at ProWrestlingTees.com/J-Rocc. J-R-O-C-C. So whether it's Big Shane Taylor or the Big Daddy of Destruction, go to ProWrestlingTees.com and pick up one of our shirts or one of the many great shirts they've got there. ProWrestlingTees.com/Shane Taylor, ProWrestlingTees.com/J-Rocc. Give it up one time, and thank you for supporting the Gus and Gus podcast and ProWrestlingTees.com.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
This is the fruit of our hard work, the belief in the entrepreneurial spirit, the new American dream. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am!
Gus! Uncle Gus is the uncle that liked to work the grill. As soon as he walk in the house, he's like, get away from that grill. You don't know how to start no fire. Throw the match. That's a fire. Look at that.
Gus, you come over and you burn down my backyard and your wife rips down the steps. Gus, why? I work hard to get my place beautiful. Gus,
I want you to put your hands together.
Gus,
Big round of applause.
Gus,
Mr. Randy Watson. Yes.
Sexy chocolate.
Damn, that boy can sing. He must be crazy. He good.
Gus.
And away we go, off and running with the now official first real deal Gus and Gus Eat the World and Its Money podcast. J-Rocc Daddy in your earplugs right now. Shane Taylor. What's happening, Shane Taylor, baby?
What's going on, Gus? We back at it again. You know, we got the trial run out of the way, so we're running out the gates here, full head of steam. I'm excited, Gus. I'm excited.
Oh, I'm excited. We're going to talk about all of that in a minute. Like, I got a story to tell about how the first one just kind of caught me by surprise. But we are on the air. We are live. If you're listening on TuneIn and Spreaker, you guys can listen to us right now live as well as across on demand throughout the week on just about every major podcast site out there. In a week and a half, we really built this thing up, and now we are off and cooking. Of course, I'm Jerry Myers. They call me J-Rocc Daddy. He is Ring of Honor's Shane Taylor, and you guys are with us here locked in. If you want to talk to us, hit us up on Twitter, on Instagram, at Shane216 Taylor, at J-Rocc Daddy, J-R-O-C-C. And here we go. As Shane was saying, excited. The first one, about 2 weeks ago, the idea kind of in the ether to try this podcast out and see what we could get cooking. I do some radio stuff, of course, and Shane and I have a great relationship, and really just the conversations we have were pretty dope off the air. So we said, man, let's throw these things down on the air, see what happens. Literally just threw something together, came out there, out the chute, and I've got to tell you, I have done podcasting for about a decade, Gus, and with the Sports Fix and the different radio shows that I've done in Cleveland, I've seen the numbers and the types of things that you're dealing with. And man, we definitely had some interest. It's really humbling, actually. I know I piggybacked off of the Sports Fix network that I had already built over the years, but a large percentage of them listened to the show, and so many new people, wrestlers from all over the place, people came out of the woodwork, Gus, to say they enjoyed just listening to you and I talk. So now we put some frills and some bells and some whistles on it and get down to business. And speaking of business, the reason this is the first official episode and not last week is because you've been taking care of business. Gus, what have you been up to? Congratulations, my friend. Gus is now no longer solo Gus. Talk to me, man. Talk to me, man. When we met, I was married Gus, and you was out there doing your solo thing, and now married Gus is you, my friend. What is up with that?
That is right. That is right. You know, how the tables have turned, they say. But, I just got married last Thursday to a wonderful woman named Abby. She's a art teacher down here in Texas. Been nothing but supportive of me and my daughter, and her family's been great. So to be able to celebrate that and you know, have her officially become, you know, part of my life, you know, as far as the paperwork goes, has been tremendous. So not only that, but made my debut in Mexico for the Crash Wrestling. Had a great time out there. Tijuana was dope. Every bit as crazy as P-Uble says it is. Say it is. So yeah, man, it's been a lot. It's been a lot coming back. Starting to get back into the groove of things now. A hell of a week. Now we're getting ready for this weekend, and got some other big things coming up that we'll get into a little bit later.
Yeah, for sure. I want to talk to you. I mean, what was Mexico? I mean, I know you've been down there before, but I saw some pictures. I saw some, man, you know I love the Crazy Eyes Shane. You posted a couple of dope pictures of Crazy Eyes Shane in Mexico. Talk to me a little bit about what was up. Who did you work with at the Crash, man?
Worked with Mr. 450, big international talent. Yeah, he's been killing it all across the world. From Mexico to Puerto Rico to Australia to UK, like he's been doing it everywhere. And a guy named Archangel Divino is my first time seeing him there. But the kid's got a lot of talent, a lot of heart, very, very gutsy. So stepping in there, I do believe originally it was supposed to be a tag team match, but Rich Swann couldn't make it, so they switched it to a triple threat. And you know. So then I had to do the solo thing, and when you get out there and you were talking about the Crazy Eyes Shane, you know, sometimes you got to let out that OG, triple OG, you know, type of mentality, and that's, you know, so that's what they got to see at the Crash.
Oh, that is fantastic. You know what? We're going to talk more, not just, by the way, let's do some business before we buckle down into the conversation. Shane and I aren't just going to talk about the things we do, but as you'll hear later on in the show, talking about doing some new production and spiffing things up. We're going to do a billboard and promote independent shows around the country and promoters out there. I mean, as this thing grows, perhaps there's opportunities for you guys to grow with us. We are really going to work to grassroots this thing and kind of work together with a lot of people, form some partnerships, things that work for you, things that work for us, things that help everybody grow, because indie wrestling, as we know, Gus, you see it, I see it everywhere. It's hot. 2018 wrestling in general is as hot as it's been in quite some time. And so there's a lot of places, and I think something like this with the reach that I saw that we've already got early on, it can help. We can help a lot of people and a lot of things, and hopefully bring some more attention to some of these great events out there and some of those things, like such as the Crash, as you were at this past weekend. Tons of things coming up, of course, on the verge of WrestleMania. All of the indie promotions in the world, it seems, try to converge down there and do something. I know you're down there for a couple of different things, so that's something else we're going to try to do here. And as we get going, we'll give you guys ways to get a hold of Shane and I and talk to us about some opportunities that we can partner up and work together, because as this thing grows, we want some people to grow with us and really keep the momentum going, as you said. Speaking of momentum, real quickly before we move forward, Gus, Ring of Honor 16th anniversary Vegas, you're just hitting it all over, globetrotting it right now. Hit me up about that, man. How was your Vegas weekend, your 16th anniversary weekend? I know the show was dope.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Vegas is always going to be, you know, is always going to be great. It's Vegas. You can't really go wrong. Say 16th anniversary for ROH. That's an incredible milestone for any wrestling company to hit, giving all of the competition that's out there, all of the, you know, all of the choices that people have to watch, whether it be from any kind of entertainment, sports, movies, TV, etc., to be to be around this long and to be not only just surviving but thriving and growing is a testament to not only the people that run it but the performers that are on the show. The show is absolutely insane. I was a part of the SoCal Uncensored versus the Bullet Club match. Obviously, SoCal Uncensored going on to win the ROH 6-man titles. They're welcome, by the way. And yeah, man, doing it right now, going across the country. I got some more plans this weekend. Going to Wrestle Circus this Saturday. Myself against JT Dunn. That's at Emo's in Austin, Texas. That's the first time I've ever been in the ring, that I'll ever be in the ring with JT Dunn, a guy who's known like myself for ending fights with knockouts. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously, he's trained by Chris Hero, a guy that I stepped into the ring with a couple years ago. So we'll see if he's as good as advertised. For his sake, he better be.
There you go. Laying it down on him. This podcast just brings out Shane's inner. Throw it down on him, man. Actually, you know what? All right, you know what? I know you, Gus. I know Gus separates business from personal, so I know that the new Mrs. Shane Taylor isn't in listening distance right now. In the last 10 days, you've been in Vegas, you've been in Mexico. What is the craziest thing that you have come across in the last couple of weeks? I know you've got to have something. And the podcast is where you talk about it. Come on, Gus. You can leave the names out if you want to protect the innocent or the guilty, but give me something, Gus.
All right, to keep it mild, just because I have to talk loud and sound rebels. We did go out to the bar in Tijuana, and there's a huge difference between USA bar culture and Tijuana bar culture. So usually in USA bar culture, from years of doing years of bouncing and doing stuff like that, if somebody is sleeping in the bar, they immediately got to go here in the States. Like, you can't have someone sleep at the bar, or sleeping in your establishment. That's usually a sign that they've had too much to drink. You try to get them out of there, try to get them a cab, whatever the case may be. Not in Tijuana, boy. Not in Tijuana. We walk in, plan was have a couple beers and call it a night. I walk in. The very first thing I see is homeboy passed out in the corner of the bar. Not just, hey, nodding off. I mean, full sleep. Drool coming down his mouth, like sleep. And I'm looking around like, yo, is anybody going to get him out of here? Not a person. You would, like, no one even looked his way to make sure he was okay. I was like, hey, well, I guess it is what it is. But to me, that personally was the craziest thing, because I'm tripping, like, because you start going into work mode. You know what I mean? Like, when you're in that environment, you start going into and just how I am personally. I like to always, be aware of my surroundings. So seeing that right off the gate was like, okay, we're in a different environment. I need to make sure that I'm on my A game, because cats are just passed out here at the bar. Nobody's doing nothing. So to me, that was the craziest thing.
Trust me, as somebody who has been through some of these places with Shane, Gus is one of those back to the wall, keeping an eye on everybody type of guys. But yeah, which is what you need to be. I mean, for sure.
2018, man, you can't take no chances out here, bro.
Stay woke, baby. Got to stay woke.
For real.
Oh, that's so funny. I've got a story. Just what the hell? We're on a podcast, man. I'll throw this one out there. Do you remember when we were down in Texas for the week, for whatever that was, Munster, Texas, or wherever that was?
Oh my God. Yeah, I remember that.
Do you remember the man that came up to me at the bar while you and I were sitting there?
Oh, you're talking about the biker dude?
Oh, yes, dude. I just told this story to somebody like a week ago. It is so weird that it came up like that. But yes, I'm sitting at the bar talking to Shane, and Gus looks and just is looking at this. I don't know what he can see, but apparently what he saw was this biker guy. And it wasn't just a biker guy. Like, it wasn't like the biker guy out of the Village People looking guy. It was an old biker guy, man. You know what I mean? Like, his 5-year plan was stay alive, you know? And this guy walked up and he stands right behind me. And Gus has got your back. Let me tell you, if you are in a fight somewhere, if you are in a dark alley, there are a handful of people you want in this world, and I am lucky enough to be friends with most of them that you want to have your back. And Gus is definitely one of them. And so Gus is ready to go. He doesn't know what's going on. He looks up, and this man leans over, and he whispers so sweetly and softly in my ear with just a hint of whiskey on his breath. He goes... Gus knows what he said. He's over there dying. He goes, "You have the most beautiful ass I've ever seen."
Oh, my God.
And Gus was just ready to lose it. And I didn't know what to do. I'm frozen. Because I don't know how to react, because it's not offensive. It's not like the guy's being belligerent or something. He's doing the same thing we would do. He's hitting on somebody at the bar. It just happens to be me. But the way he said it, and I don't even remember how we diffused it or whatever, but man, I was just telling that story the other day. No joke. Like,
I want to say we just said thanks and walked away. Like, I think we just tried to like leave the situation. And for anybody out, and listen, let me put this out there right now. If you're one of these people that's going to listen to this show and get offended about every single thing, turn it off. Like, because you're going to piss us off, and we're going to piss you off, because we can joke about stuff and things happening because they're funny. And this is not about, like, don't social media us to death with this, like, well, what do you mean you just walked away? Like, yes, we walked away because, hey, while the guy was paying Gus a compliment, nobody was mad. Nobody yelled at the guy. Nobody made him feel bad. It was simply, hey, appreciate it. Awkward. We're out of here. Thank you, though. And we left. A normal reaction to not being in those situations. So anybody that's about to come on here and try to make more of this than what it is, don't. I'm trying not to swear. I'm really trying not to swear, so just don't.
That wasn't even the best part of the night. The best part of the night
it really wasn't, though.
Is we go through this. Look, man, we're in a strange town. I don't even have bars on my phone. Shane Taylor, all of us had contract phones, no signal anywhere in this town that's in BFE in Texas. Shane Taylor has the pay-by-the-month Cricket phone, and I'm talking about 8 years ago, before everybody had to pay-by-the-month phones.
Listen,
and we were making fun of your phone. We were making fun of your phone.
All of you were. Listen, Cricket, if you want your boy as a spokesman, if you want to, if you want to sponsor your boy, I'm all for it.
Tweet your boy.
I had Cricket before it was cool. I had Cricket, and all of y'all had your iPhones. All of you had
you had 5 bars.
I had your Razors. All of you had your expensive ass phones. And y'all were making fun of my phone. Y'all were teasing your boy. Y'all were like, "Oh, you got broke Shane with the Krieger phone." And then one by one over the course of that week, one by one, hey Shane, you got bars? Yeah, I got bars, 5 of them. Can I use your phone? Hell no. Because I don't care who's calling. I don't care what messages you missed. I don't care what text you didn't get. Y'all were making fun of your boy's phone, but damn.
I remember sitting out the window, and we were up like 5th floor, 6th floor or something like that. And I remember practically hanging, doing gymnastics out the window, and you're on the bed. You're like, Gus, you got any bars over there, man? I got 5 bars over here. But anyway, point is that Shane's got the only phone that works. We don't even know where we're at, and we're in the middle of this town, so we find some people at the bar that are going back where we're going to give us a ride back, except I've got a major issue with drunken driving. Like, we can play around and have fun and all of that, but like, I'm one of those guys that the minute I have my first drink, I won't take my keys out. Like, I just refuse to be, and I won't drive with people. And anyway, so, and you shouldn't, but I'm super vigilant about that, because to me, there's a lot of things that you can do that'll hurt yourself. Drunk driving is one of those things on the list that you can do that screws up everybody else's life. And usually it's the drunk driver is the only person that doesn't get hurt. It's everybody else that gets hurt or killed or maimed and all of that stuff. So anyways, get back to the story. We're in this car, and we realize that we should not be, I realize that nobody's in any condition to drive, and luckily we're not going very far, but they keep hitting bumps, and we're in the back of an SUV, and I keep hitting my head on the ceiling of this thing, and I'm getting madder and angrier in the back seat, and I start literally just saying whatever I've got to say out loud. I'm buzzed and I'm angry and I keep hitting my head, and Gus is like just elbowing me. Come on, man. Shh, don't say nothing, man. We finally get to the hotel. He pulls me aside and he's like, Gus, why? Look, man, I know what you're saying, but you can't have him drop us off in the middle of nowhere. We don't know where we're at. Your phone don't even work, man. Like, we have to get back here. And
now to preface the story, to extend what I told him, because this is the guy's honest truth. I am just as mad, okay? I am just as pissed off. I am just as frustrated. But what I told you when we got out of the car was, look, first off, we were like on the border of like Oklahoma and Texas. Like, it was just weird. Like, and then we get back to the hotel, and I was like, yo, we at least had to get back to the hotel. Number one, because then this is where our stuff is. Number two, at least we know where we're at. Number three, if we're gonna fight, I can't fight with you in a car. Like, we are at a distinct tactical disadvantage in a car. Like, let them stop. Let us get out. Let us get where we at least have some knowledgeable surroundings, and then you can go out and say whatever you want, because we'll just beat all their asses. That's fine.
This is why you travel with Shane Taylor.
Getting back, you have to have the tactical advantage. You have to, like, that's just common sense. There's no way I'm fighting these dudes in a car. First, we're outnumbered, which I don't really care. Like, I put cats down, but like, if we're gonna fight, at least let's know where we're at and have some semblance of where we're going.
Oh, see, that was younger me. I was a little bit more impetuous, a little bit more hot tempered than I am. I'm a little more seasoned now. But yes, and I just remember that you were just like, dude, what is gonna happen here? We're gonna end up in the middle of nowhere fighting a bunch of people, and we don't even know where we're at, how to get back in.
Where we're at all. Like, but this is the thing. I will give. But look, like, if y'all were in the car, it was bump, wham, and all you hear is Gus go, Jesus, this effing guy. Oh, you learn how to drive, and I'm just like, yo, come on, like, we're down the street. As soon as we get out the car, we can smash all these dudes. But, like, we gotta get out the car.
I don't even think I realized I was doing it. I'm literally just whacking my head, and I'm like, this guy keeps, man, that's it. Pull over. We got to get out, man. I can't do this no more, man.
The best part is Gus is insulting the guy driving, but talking to me while he's insulting the guy, like, the guy's not even there, right?
Yes.
And he's like, Gus, this guy can't drive. This guy is this piece of shit. And I'm just like, yo. And I'm just like, look, we will, like, I'm down for whatever once the car stops. I don't care. But we got to get out the car. Like, and tucking and rolling at 80 miles an hour is probably not the best option. So.
That's my go-to, too, is when somebody really, really pisses me off, I stop talking to them, and I start talking to somebody else next to them about them. Like, I don't even, like, that's one of my go-tos. I won't even say his name, because it's whatever. It's a long time ago. It was a dumb beef. But I remember one time putting together a wrestling match with our buddy Ray Rowe as my partner against a couple of guys. And these guys had been wrestling like a couple of years, and Ray and I had been a decade in each. Not that that's all that, but, you know, relatively speaking, it was. And these guys just stood there and kept telling me and Ray what we were going to do. And I finally stopped talking to them. I just started talking to Ray about them. I'm like, look, man, here's what we're going to do. Just make sure that they know. And literally, like, that's when you know that you have taken me to the point of no return. When I stop talking to you and I start talking to the person next to you about you. At that point, I'm done.
Coincidentally, we all do the same thing. That's a crew trait.
Yes, we all do it.
That's a signal that we go, hey, just so you know, this is where I'm at. So just in case shit pops off, you understand where I had to get to in order for this to happen. Because Ray does the same thing. Like, I remember, and I'm sure he won't mind telling me the story, but I remember right after his surgery, I went to go see him, and they were messing up at the hospital. They weren't giving him his meds, like, you know, and he had just gotten out of surgery, so he is in beyond excruciating pain. And this lady who he's told, hey, they haven't given me my stuff, and I'm in a lot of pain, is setting up his IV for the stuff and setting up his pain meds, but she's not just doing it. She's like training someone else about what to do in this situation. All the while, our boy is laying there, you know, in agony. So he's talking to me because he's a nice guy. And he's trying not to flip on this lady. And he's telling me, like, Shane, what the fuck is she doing? What is she doing? I'm like, hey, man, it's all good. You know, she's trying to get this. He's like, no, she's not. She's not doing it. She's training some other lady on how to do it when she should just be putting my stuff in. And, like, he's absolutely losing it. But on me because he's trying not to yell at these ladies. So, like, I'm like, all right, man, hey, can y'all just do that? And can you train her at another time? Like, I'm trying to play peacemaker before Ray loses his mind. But yeah, like that thing is like that's definitely a crew trait to like talk to someone else right next to the person that you really want to hit. Like,
yes. It's so funny too when you say Ray, because Ray he's so nice. Like Ray can be furious. And most people won't know at first, but we know. And you can just know when he's got that look, that real quiet look, but those eyes or that tone in his voice, you just go, damn. Ray's pissed. Like, you know it. You know what I mean? But he's able to keep it cool, but you know. Like, I have watched Ray stand in a group of people and have to just chill. And he's just fuming, but he has to be cool for whatever reason. And you can see that look. If you know him, you just look and you go, oh, man, brother is not happy right now at all.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely time to change the people around you or change the environment altogether, because it doesn't like that's why we all can't really go out, because there's no stopping it, like, because all of us have control individually, but together we all want to stick up for the next person. So like, while you know, Ray will stop himself, I see it and go, oh, well, that's not going to happen. Like, that's not going to fly. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so there's always the next person you got to stop. So that's why we, you know, we travel, but we don't go out, because it's like, no, because people are stupid and if there's going to be a fight, like, it's going to happen. Like, this is not.
Right. Absolutely. Brother, none of us need to... None of us need to be throwing down in public at this point in our lives, man. Grown people don't do that. That's not normal, Gus. Normal people don't do those types of things.
Well, see, this is the thing, though. Normal people do it. The problem is society itself has stopped being normal. Like,
well, that's the thing. It's society.
Back then, right? Like, listen. As much as I love everything that I'm doing now, and I understand the history, I firmly think I was born in the wrong era, because my mentality is, hey, if you are running your mouth and you get hit, don't call the cops, don't sue, don't sit there and play the victim. You were running your mouth. That's what happens when you run your mouth. If you run your mouth, you are telling me two things. One, you're that confident in your ability. Number two, you don't care about the consequences of the things that are coming out of your mouth. So.
Gus.
Understandable if you get popped. What you should have expected to be popped. That's the prerequisite before running your mouth, that, hey, I might get popped. I don't care. I'm going to keep saying what I got to say. Don't be surprised when you get blasted.
here's my thing. And, you know, I've done talk radio for a long time in Cleveland on different radio stations. So this has come up before when we've talked about topics that like kind of hit on, you know, bullying and stuff like that and how people should. And I do get it. Like there is an aspect of nobody should feel physically, verbally, whatever, mentally intimidated into having to do a sort of thing. I get that. But you and I, we've all talked about the crew. We've talked about this forever, is that it sounds like a joke when you say people can say whatever they want nowadays. People can do that because that fear of an ass whooping, as they say, isn't there. And I don't mean that to sound like, oh, well, we should all be animals and go fight and settle everything with our fists. That's not what I'm saying. But when you used to have to worry that if you said something to somebody that offended them, they may smack you for what you said. Not saying that that's a good thing, but that was more of the societal norm. Therefore, people didn't say things.
Gave you pause.
Yes, it made you think about what you said, and to me that means something, and that's part of what's missing. And it's hard to say that, Gus, because then you can say, oh, well, then just the toughest guys get to walk around and smack people, and everybody's got to fall in line.
No.
That's not what I'm saying. Right? Go ahead. I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Listen, exactly. And see, what a lot of people that didn't grow like, there's a huge disconnect between people that grew up real, like you and I, that understand the world the way it is, and what people that have grown up in a bubble think that like they are firmly entrenched about every Disney fairy tale ideal is how the world works because that's the way you see it. The problem is that's not how these things work, and that's not how these things are shaped. Like bullying in itself is about control. It is about dominating weaker people. So it has nothing to do with when people say stand up to bullies. They're not like in this day and age. It seems like, well, we should just remove all. You're never going to remove bullies. You are talking about human nature. You are talking about people that want to dominate other people. That is not ever going to be changed in society. Like that's just going to be a thing. And at no point in time does removing a problem or trying to remove a problem help anybody get past that problem. Why? Because you're not allowed to deal with it. Like you used to have to deal with it. And I'm not saying everybody's a fighter or everybody doesn't have to fight, but you figured out a way. And more likely than not, bullies, you could, we were all bullied. We were all picked on. The difference was, hey, look, whether you beat me in this fight or not, you're going to understand every time we come to school, we're going to start this. We're going to have at it. We'll get suspended. We'll come back and we'll do it all again. It is much better to just leave me alone because this is not the problem that you want. And when you can stand up for yourself and show that level of self-respect, then that changes. You're not seen as the victim. You're not seen as someone that is an easy lick, as we say on the street. Like that's you are seen as someone that is going to stand up for themselves, and that puts you in a different light. But for those that aren't fighters, you used to have, and this is just talking about today's society versus yesterday's society. Like, you used to have to figure out your role. Like, not everybody was a fighter, but you either knew kids that were, and you were like, hey, I'm going to make sure I'm friends with the kids that know how to fight, because then if I get caught into a problem, maybe they'll help me. If you were smart, you did business stuff. Hey, listen, you go up to this guy, he can fight, maybe he's failing math. Hey, man, I will help you with your math homework. I will tutor you for the rest of the year as long as you make sure these kids stay off me. Bam. Now you got your own bodyguard, the makings of your very own business. You were friends with all the girls, and nobody, and I mean nobody, is fighting the kid who's friends with the girls. Why? Because you're friends with the girls. So obviously you were in a good spot there. or you were the funny kid, or whatever the case may be. No one wants to fight the funny kid. Like, you found your niche. You were able at a very young age to see a problem, find a solution, and then work through it. And then at any point in time, if things changed, then you had to find another route. But it's an absolute crime that we're robbing our kids of the ability to think for themselves and to defend themselves and to figure out things on their own. Because at no other point in life are we there for that. At no other point in life. I don't understand why the most formative years of their existence, we don't allow them to do things that they're going to need for the rest of their life. Problem solving, how to deal with disappointment, how to deal with failure, how to deal with rejection, how to deal with people that disagree with your point of views, how to deal with, any problems that you may face. We want to seem to protect them in this bubble, but then pop the bubble and throw them into the real world come, 18 years old. That's not how it works, people. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. If you never played a game of basketball in your life, and I told you, hey, you're about to step on the floor with the Cavs right now, you wouldn't be prepared for that. You would be absolutely slaughtered. You would have no idea how to cope with the change. And that's exactly what we're doing. And I just don't get it, Gus. I don't get it. I don't even understand the logic. Right? You would think if you know you're going to have problems, or you know these things are out in the world, would it not be better to learn how to deal with those things at an early age? Now, I understand we want kids to be kids. That's all great. But this isn't a fairy tale movie, people. This is real life. Our job as parents is not to baby our kids. It's not to make them think that the world is their oyster. It is to prepare them for life, prepare them for reality. Now, does that mean you can't go for your dreams? Absolutely not. But while you're going for your dreams, just know that these things are out here and prepare them for it.
Man, that's deep. Gus laying it down, man. I can't think of a better place than there to take a minute. Whew, man, I got nothing. That's to a T. That's to a T right there. Speaking of T, let's take a break. Let's take a TO, Gus. Let's take a time out. We got a little funny stuff for you here coming up, and then we'll talk to you a little bit. Pro Wrestling Tees coming your way. Support your boy here, and a little live event update. We're going to talk about some shows upcoming in the areas, and then Gus and Gus will be right back. And if you want to talk to us, tweet with us on Twitter. Well, that's the only place you can tweet with us, so common sense would say at Shane216 Taylor, at J-Rocc Daddy, J-R-O-C-C. It's the Gus and Gus Eat the World and Its Money podcast, and we will be right back. Don't you dare go away.
Gus and Gus Eat the World and Its Money. We'll be right back.
Stay in touch with Gus and Gus on Twitter and Instagram 24/7 at Shane216 Taylor, at J-Rocc Daddy, that's J-R-O-C-C Daddy on Instagram and Twitter.
Gus and Gus Eat the World and Its Money. As always, brought to you by our good friends at ProWrestlingTees.com, where you can get some of the great designs from yours truly, J-Rocc Daddy, and the big homie, Shane Taylor. Whether you want to get the One Punch Shane, Knockouts for Everyone t-shirt that's so popular right now, or many of Big Shane Teasy's designs, go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Shane Taylor. And of course, yours truly has the Give It Up One Time Destruction t-shirt. Several popular logos on there mixed in with the Big Daddy of Destruction flavor. All of that and more at ProWrestlingTees.com/J-Rocc, J-R-O-C-C. So whether it's Big Shane Taylor or the Big Daddy of Destruction, go to ProWrestlingTees.com and pick up one of our shirts or one of the many great shirts they've got there. ProWrestlingTees.com/Shane Taylor, ProWrestlingTees.com/J-Rocc. Give it up one time and thank you for supporting the Gus and Gus Eat the World and Its Money Podcast Daddy.
Independent wrestling is not only the lifeblood of professional wrestling. In 2018, it is red hot and more exciting than ever. Here's a list of some of the local events you can catch Gus and Gus appearing at in the upcoming weeks. Get the family together, pack up your friends and head out to catch one today. This Saturday, March 24th, RWA presents another capacity crowd show at the Gymnasium in West Newton, Pennsylvania. For info, check out RWA Pro on Facebook. On the same night of March 24th, Wrestle Circus returns to Austin, Texas with another star-studded lineup of some of the best talent around. Check out WrestleCircus.com for details. Thursday, April 5th in New Orleans, Louisiana, Wildcat Sports is at the Sugar Mill during Mania weekend. And of course, Ring of Honor presents Super Card of Honor on April 7th, featuring the stars of New Japan as well as Bullet Club. On the same day, April 7th, FWF teams up with Heroes and Legends Wrestling for a joint super show in Warsaw, Indiana at the Center Lake Pavilion. Visit Heroes and Legends on Facebook for info. April 14th and 15th, Ring of Honor returns to the Midwest with a pair of shows in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania and Columbus, Ohio, and details for both of those big cards is at ROHWrestling.com. And on Friday night, April 20th, FWF returns to Normandy High School in Parma, Ohio for its latest Friday Night Funk event as a fundraiser for the school athletic boosters. Information for that event available through John David Myers on Facebook. If your favorite promotion isn't represented here, contact us today and find out how to make it happen. Now go, get out there and give it up one time for your local independent promotion. And now, let's get back to Gus and Gus Eat the World and Its Money.
Indeed, it's funky. Welcome back to the Gus and Gus Eat the World and Its Money podcast. J-Rocc Daddy talking in this ear. Shane Taylor, the notorious Shane Taylor from Ring of Honor Wrestling over there. Shane, back with me, Gus?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I'll tell you, before we go anywhere, Gus, I got to talk to you. I want to know what's going on because I know you just heard that. And that was all cool and all during the break. They're running down the live events. But, man, that wasn't no regular voice. I listened to that thing, and people out there listen to that thing too. Gus, I don't know who your voiceover guy is, but you got to tell me the truth, Gus. He's a Bigfoot. He's an alien Bigfoot, ain't he? That ain't normal, Gus. Normal people don't sound like that, Gus.
Listen, I met him 15 years ago on a camping trip, but that's neither here nor there.
How you bringing an alien Bigfoot around my podcast, Gus? Around my people? I'm just trying to keep it beautiful, Gus.
That's all we're trying to do. That's all we're trying to do. Just keep it beautiful. But he did make a good point. He did make a very great point when he talked about, again, this weekend, Saturday in Austin, Texas at Emo's Wrestle Circus. Your boy Shane Taylor against JT Dunn, arguably one of the most. Yes.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say, Wrestle Circus is really unique, man. They've got some good stuff going on down there, man. That's a really cool thing. You got JT Dunn. You were just getting ready to say. I wasn't trying to cut you off, but I was just going to put over Wrestle Circus. We're both in action Saturday. I've got RWA. They've got another sold-out capacity event this weekend. I'm doing a triple threat match for their championship there, so both of us in action. But you're in Austin, and I know, we were just talking about wrestling there, but on a different subject. Gus, you lived here. I don't know if people know where, I'm in Cleveland, been here, raised and born my whole life. The land is where it's at for me. You started here. You've been Pittsburgh. You've lived in Erie. You've come back to Cleveland. You've been in Lorain, and you end up migrating yourself down to Houston. You've been in Texas for what? You have 4 years now or something like that?
something crazy like that. Yeah, 4 years.
It's insane, but man, and you've been, and we talk about this off the air, but I mean, a lot of things. I mean, all the weather. There's been some real hard hitting things that have hit all the people around you. Luckily, haven't really affected you too badly personally, but all those things down there that you've seen firsthand, and you're going to Austin. I mean, for the last week and a half, all the world's been talking about is the bombings going on down there, and they just caught that guy. He blew himself up the other night when they went in to get him. But I mean, how freaking scary of a world we live in. And real quick sidebar, I was talking about this yesterday. I did news anchor job for one of the radio stations here in Cleveland for a few years, and one of the things that I saw was how the 24-hour news cycle, it doesn't just perpetuate bad reporting. That's a given, because instead of how it used to be when you had to double, triple, 7-time fact check something, and you couldn't say anything that you couldn't back up because there was no giving rumors and unsubstantiated. That's why when people watch CNN, they like to watch CNN instead of the local news, because on CNN they're full. It's in vogue to throw out the rumors and the quick stories, whereas the local news, for the most part, has always kind of kept it buttoned down, and there's so few details, and you think, oh, the local news is boring. No, they just stick to the old broadcast values more than a lot of the 24-hour news cycle, where they just go through Twitter and will just report on the news. Well, we've got rumors off Twitter that this happened. Oh, never mind. That didn't happen. Meanwhile, millions of people have retweeted it. So it creates a society of false information and bad news, and everybody's misinformed. But worse than that is it creates this copycat world that we live in, Gus, where that's what I'm not saying. I'm obviously, kids with guns are the reasons that they go shoot up schools. But at the end of the day, where do you think some of these kids would have never thought of these things except the blueprint was given to them by the 11 o'clock news when they're able to go? It's one thing to hear kid shoots up a school, but since everybody's racing for details, Gus, everybody wants to have the hot story and the clickbait, so everybody gets all the clicks on their ad-driven news sites, so they want to have every detail. How they found the guns, how they bought them, how they snuck them into the school, how they executed their plan, and what they're doing is they're giving a game plan to the next copycat. And they're making these, how back in the day, they used to not release details for crimes to the public for that very reason. Now, you can't release the details fast enough, and it creates these copycats. And I think it just makes this problem that we see. And I mean, you guys were down there. Back to the, sorry, I go off just like you. Back to the original point, man, being that close to Austin, I know you're not right there, but man, how terrifying was that for the last week with that crazy guy down there bombing innocent people for no reason? He wasn't just using mail bombs. He had a fishing wire bomb on somebody's porch with a tripwire. I mean, some real hardcore stuff, man.
Unreal. And my thing is this, because for those that don't know, Austin is about 3 hours away, from Houston. And in this life, I'm not so much worried about me, but I'm worried about my wife. I'm worried about my daughter. I'm worried about the people closest to me. And the problem that I felt for most of the time when you said that the world was talking about it was almost the opposite of that the world wasn't talking about it enough. Like, I know there's a billion things going on, and I know millions of people, for whatever reason, are concerned with the president and who he did or didn't sleep with. I don't give a shit about that. I don't care. I don't care who he slept with. I don't care what the details of that are. You know what I care about? This guy in Austin, Texas, who was going around targeting people of color with bombs and killing them. That's what I care about. I care about the fact that Flint, Michigan, after years, still doesn't have fresh water. That's what I care about. I don't care about who the president is sleeping with, or did not. I don't give a shit. But this is the thing: when you talk about the sensationalistic media that we have, they have to find a way to fill 24 hours in a day. And my problem more than anything is not only does it fuel copycats, like you said, but it perpetuates stereotypes. It perpetuates bullshit every single day. And then people hear it enough, and they start to think it's truth. And then when you talk to people, all they're doing is regurgitating the same nonsense that they heard on their insert news channel here, right? So when you talk about gun violence or gun control, the common buzzword for the misinformed is Chicago, right? That's the first thing. Well, what about Chicago? And I just want to slap everybody, like, because it's so stupid. But getting back to Austin, I have no idea. Well, I know exactly what, but I'm going to keep that part to myself because I want this show to be successful. But when you talk about
though, Gus, I mean, I hear you.
But for real, like if I don't know what it's going to take for any non-melanated person to be labeled a terrorist in this country, because you had someone who had the entire city of Austin in fear, hiding in their homes because they were afraid that there was going to be a bomb somewhere. Had that kid or that guy, had he been a Black Lives Matter supporter, had he been a Muslim of some kind, had he been anything, the very first thing you would have heard about on every single channel, on every single news outlet would have been this story. And any officer, any police, anybody in that, realm of occupation, any government person would not have said, we don't think he's a terrorist. We just think he's a very troubled teen or a very troubled person. Get out of here with that. They would have been the scourge of the absolute earth. They would have been the lowest of the low. It would have been an act of terror, and it would have been, further Kool-Aid for the rest of these people that just want to that find it so convenient to label everybody else, but seem to want to err on the side of caution or err on the side of benefit of the doubt when it comes to other people committing these acts. Bottom line, this dude is a domestic terrorist, just like the shooter in Vegas. Just like
absolutely. I mean, that's the definition of terrorist. I mean, you don't even got to say domestic, Gus. Just terrorist.
Right.
I mean,
You're a
the
terrorist.
definition of that,
like
and I'm with you. Anybody that
dudes,
makes people live in fear and go out of their way is a terrorist. You are using terror as your weapon. It's the definition of the term.
And just because you don't want to, expand the definition of the word to have it be anything other than, well, it's not for political, like, shut up. It's an act of terror. That's what this is. The problem is you don't want that mirror focused on you now. You're fine when it's focused on people, marching for social justice, and a few people get out of hand and do stupid stuff. Then you have no problem labeling them as terrorists. You have a few people who are extremists, and yes, they are. If you commit these acts, I don't care who you are, you're wrong, right? But you have these people that commit these acts, and then they are labeled as certain things. But the very same act, the very same thing, the very same intent is performed by this guy in Austin, and he's a troubled teen? He's a troubled kid? It's a mental health issue? No. It is a terrorist issue, and he should be held in the same light as the people that you are so eager to label as terrorists. There is no difference between him and them. The problem is that people see that, and it doesn't look like the enemy that they were told to hate. It doesn't look like the person you told it's their fault. He looks like you.
What you just said there, though, that's part of the problem, Gus, too, without us getting
Absolutely.
too, preachy, is you look at your news feed, we happen to have, I know you are pretty much there too. I'm maxed out. I've got like 5,000 friends on my profile and however many follow me. So because we have more than the average person there, we see more than the average person on our news feed. Most people have 300, 400, 500 or whatever. So man, you see how much misinformation is out there. How many people fight arguments that they don't even know that their information is wrong, and if they knew, their argument would be completely different. And it's part of, people love to use the term to mock Trump with the whole fake news thing, but our whole world is, like you said, it's full of fake news and red herrings. Rather than talk about these issues here that you're talking about, we're going to spend hours and hours and hours of our day and millions of dollars in resources to bitch and do things about people doing national anthems before freaking football games and bullshit like that, instead of the real stuff that matters. We've got more abandoned houses in the United States than we have homeless people, yet somehow that isn't a problem that equates, and on and on and on. Social, economic, so many issues, and we let people do, like you said, now we're worried about what porn star Donald Trump was banging 10 years ago, or who's not kneeling for the national anthem, or whatever stupid distraction we can have from all the real stuff that matters.
Absolutely. And it's absolutely, it's mind-boggling to me as to how many, and anybody, and I will have these conversations with anybody on the street, wherever you want to have these talks. I'm all for it, but please be informed. Don't tell me buzzwords like Chicago because you heard it on Fox News, because we're done with the conversation. Don't tell me about, I come from a military family. I come from a police family. I have nothing but respect for those odd occupations, for the people that choose to do it. But let me explain something to you, to everybody. People choose those occupations. No different than you choose to be a teacher, no different than you choose to be a dentist, no different than you choose to be in construction. That is a job that you are paid to do, that you signed up for, that you applied for. It does not make you a better patriot than anybody else. It simply doesn't. You are not a better person. You are not a better father. You are not a better mother. You are not a better brother. You are not a better sister than anybody else walking this earth. You have chosen, and thank you for choosing a noble profession. Thank you for doing the things that you do so other people don't have to. But if you joined, or if you are doing any of that because you wanted a pat on the back, or because you wanted to be called a hero, or because you wanted to do those things, you're in the wrong. You joined for the wrong reason. You're in the wrong profession, because that's not what the job is about. The job is about protecting those who can't protect themselves. You're like a big brother or a big sister to other people in the country. And never once in my life, when protecting my big brothers, protecting my younger brothers, did I need them to tell me, thank you for protecting me, or give me some sort of special recognition as to be like, because that's just what you're supposed to do. That is why I'm here. That's why I accepted the role, because I know what it entails. And the way people view these things and the way they go into them is when you touch on the kneeling for the anthem, like we could go on, this is a whole show by itself, but when you talk about how things are viewed in this country, instead of looking into why someone would do that and why they feel the way they do, or looking at the historical context of not only athletes but sporting events in general, and how things have been used to skew history and manipulate public opinion, instead of looking at that and actually trying to see what the problem is, most people just stop with military disrespect, military, and they work themselves up into a frenzy because you personalize it. You think about what you did or why you joined, or your brother or sister or dad, or why they did, and you immediately take it as personally being disrespectful to you. Whereas that's not what they're talking about. That's not even what the issue was. The issue was something all the way over here in left field, but you chose it to bring all the way over to right field. That's why this misinformation thing pisses me off so much, because we can't ever actually talk about the real problems, because we spend 6 out of the 7 days arguing about the bullshit, and by the time we get through all the bullshit, no one has the energy to talk about the real problem, because you've been, saying your piece and then deflecting this, and like it's absolutely ridiculous. So when you talk about, when you talk about these things, it's maddening, because the very few times I've run into people that have actually come to me with logical points, they're great conversations, because we can go, oh, you know what? Well, yeah, this, and this, or I didn't see it that way. People have lost the ability to have intelligent conversation because they just want to be right.
Holler at your boy if you want to talk to Shane about all of that. Man, laying it down today. This podcast is on fire, man. At Shane216 Taylor, at J-Rocc Daddy, JROCC. Hit us up. And by the way, I didn't say this earlier. Take a breath. Woosah, Gus. Woosah.
Yo,
if
I'm
you
hot
enjoy
right now, bro.
what I know, Gus, if you enjoy what we're talking about, and we are talking about some real stuff, we had some fun earlier. We're going to talk some wrestling here. We've still got a lot more show to go. But if you like anything or everything about what we're doing, do us a favor. You guys are what powers this thing and are going to make it grow. So just click the share button, whether you're listening on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Apple podcasts, whether you're listening on Podbean, or perhaps you're listening on many of the Stitcher. There's so many. TuneIn, soon to be on Spotify, every major podcast site, whatever one you're on, they have a button, a share button. Go click that button right now and tell somebody, hey, take a listen over here. Shane Taylor is laying it down right now. J-Rocc Daddy going along for the ride. Gus, man, I love it. And I love that. That's part of the reason that this was so attractive to me and you, was having a platform where we can just cut the mic on and talk and go wherever the conversation goes. Because as people are starting to find out, if they don't know us, but there's no conversation that you and I are not afraid to have with each other or with anybody else.
Absolutely. And it's for years now, we've always said, like, yo, our conversation should be on TV or something, but like this is the platform that I want, because like we were saying, in society, it's especially when you're in the public eye, there are so many people that are afraid to say what needs to be said, or say what they feel, because of backlash, and no one can be. And my thing is, like, why would you pressure people into not saying the right thing? If our society and our culture is built on this form of honor and doing the right thing and speaking out and changing the world for the better, why would you pressure people into being scared to tell the truth, or scared to, help other people by pointing out an issue? Because no one wants to be the first, right? Everybody's scared to be the first, because the first is usually the one that gets all the slack.
I was going to say that about when we were talking about the kneeling. I was going to mention that about Kaepernick. It's so funny that you said that. All the way back, you look at even things like free agency. Curt Flood is the one that got everybody their money, and he got nothing. He got washed out. It's whoever starts the revolution, is the person that starts the union, the person that does the work. They get swept out from history, and it's everybody after them that reaps the benefits, and a lot of times people don't realize that. And Colin Kaepernick's the same way. That discussion became about everything but Colin Kaepernick and why he was doing it. Everybody else is still in the NFL. Everybody else is still making millions, and he's just on the outside looking in.
Right. And it really boils down to, hey, we know cops have a dangerous job, but if they're wrong in their protocol and they shoot someone while they're unarmed, then and you find out, hey, there was different ways to go about it. They shouldn't have done that. then they should probably face consequences, and not just sporadically, but that should be a thing. Just
I'll tell you what.
Best
example of that, if you want to take race and everything else out of the argument and just put that on the forefront and nobody can argue with you. How about right over by you in Arizona, the Daniel Shaver case, where the cop, and boy, man, he ended up being fired right afterwards. I could not believe that they found him not guilty. But if you watch that video, it's one of the most sickening things you'll see. It's just a power-hungry cop. I mean, the whole thing could have been avoided so easily. But anyways,
was that the one in the hotel?
Yeah, right? And it was ridiculous. He's given these impossible to follow commands, and he basically just gunned this guy down in cold blood, and he ended up being fired, and he lost his job, but he was found not guilty. And when you watch the video, you go, man, the only reason he was found not guilty was because that jury could not convince themselves to put that, because when you put that question and a cop has to have that split second of will I face consequences, that does change the way they do their job, and that's a scary thing for good police as well.
Exactly, but then you get this whole thing of, well, then you basically get carte blanche.
I know, it's ridiculous. No, I agree.
You can say that at any single point in time, and as a civilian, but this is the thing too, we have military rules of engagement that don't allow for the kind of things that happen with police. It's ridiculous. There is no way American civilians should be treated less than hostile enemies in a war zone. That makes no sense. Absolutely none. And I'm sure there's people like, well, our rules of engagement are this, or whatever your feelings about them are, that's fine. But what I am saying is, if I am fighting an enemy in a war zone, I should not be treating that enemy better than I treat civilians in my country. Period. By any form of any authority whatsoever. It's absolutely ridiculous that you go into situations better with this group than this group, because you're dealing with trained people over here, untrained people over here. So common sense would tell you that, hey, there should be some sort of change, some sort of protocol difference. Something has to happen where this can't continue to be a thing, because and for people that don't understand this, I don't get it, because if I was about to fight somebody, and I'm standing in front of you, hands up, and giving you commands, or I'm about to rock you, I you would be nervous then, right? It would
Absolutely.
Be just standing there with my hands about to knock you out, and I'm like, lay on the ground, stand up, pull your pockets out, whatever I'm telling you, that fear and that emotion is going to cloud your judgment. Imagine if I had a automatic weapon pointed at you, and I am telling you, if you make a wrong move, you're going to die. There is no way your brain or anybody that has ever had to deal, I've had guns pulled on me. I know what that's like. And your mind is going a million different ways, right? And you're thinking about what they're trying to tell you. You're thinking about your family. You're thinking about the last thing you did. You're thinking about the last conversations you had with people that you cared about. There's a million things going through your head, right? And at the same time, you have to be focused on what this person is telling you, because they have their life in your hand. They have your life in their hand. Now, if they're telling you, and I'm listening to these commands on the video on my phone, and I couldn't follow him. I'm like, what is he asking him to do?
Right.
How do you think the guy in the video is going to respond? He's sitting there crying. He's asking you, please don't kill me, please. I'm trying to do what you're asking me.
And the guy was drunk. And it turned out that the guy was drunk.
Right. I mean, come on, man. Come on. What is the goal here? What is the goal?
But you know what? Let me tell you something. I was reading, and I was just talking about this with somebody yesterday. a couple of my buddies, and we were looking up what happened to him afterwards, and it was less than 2 months after that he was fired. He wasn't fired for that. That wasn't egregious enough. But when he was fired for something else, he did something else pretty screwed up. But one of the things that they found was on he bought it himself, but it was like his registered semi-automatic AR-15. And, because cops need to carry that around. And I'm not trying to impugn anybody, but he chiseled the words, "You're effed," on the barrel of the thing. Yeah. And so when he turned in his weapon, when he was disengaged or whatever, or fired or whatever it was, he turned it in. That was one of the things that was put on his discharge that he was charged with or whatever as an offense on the way out the door. But so that's the mentality
how is that not a red flag?
Of a guy like that. How is that okay?
Right. Like, all right. That means for example, if you get new wrestling gear, Gus, and the first thing that you're going to do,
baby, I got to keep my stuff fresh. I got to keep it beautiful.
You got to keep it beautiful. Got to keep it beautiful. Like, you're going to show your coworkers, hey, this is the new gear I got. Da da da. So at some point, right, he gets this inscription on his gun. He has to show someone. You would think, just logically, right?
Absolutely. And his buddies see it, and they go, "Oh, did you see what crazy cop shaver over there?" Or no, that's the guy. I'm sorry. I can't remember what the officer's name is. Mark something, but whatever. Right. You see what he did on his gun? Ha, ha, ha.
Right. And that's a problem that most people have when you talk about dealing with police, because right there, if I'm a cop, I'm going, yo, we got a problem. This dude's out here. He's got your F on his gun. Look, y'all may want to watch him because it's just a matter of time until he does something stupid. Like, we all know that there are great cops out there, and we all know that there are cops that are doing their job for the right reasons. The issue that people have is you can't continue to allow the bad ones to go unchecked. And you can't continue to sit there and claim that there are good ones out there and have them stay silent. If there are good people out there, it is your job just as much as it is ours to figure out who these people are and get them away from this profession. Because this is supposed to be you are serving the community. It is not your job to enforce morality.
Service. That's what it's called.
It is not your job to invoke fear. It is not your job to be, to go around and you're not having a pissing contest with the rest of society. You are put in this position because you're supposed to be responsible. You're supposed to know how to deal with people. You're supposed to have the training to make sure that you are keeping the peace, or making sure those that disturb it, face the consequences that they're supposed to have in a court of law. Not, this roving, you answer to me sort of mentality, because that's not how this works. And all that does is garner more fear. All that does is garner more hatred, and it continues the cycle. You now make people afraid. People react in a scared way. That makes you afraid, and it continues this ridiculous cycle of bullshit.
Gus, we can continue this conversation over and over and over again, but I think a perfect way to kind of bring it right here full circle is we were going to introduce a new segment this week, and I already know where you're going to go. I think this is like the perfect place to put it. If you follow Shane Taylor on social media, you would know that one of the things he's known for, one of his go-tos, if you will, that people get a kick out of is when he likes to pull people's man. Tell him about pulling people's man cards, Gus.
All right, now listen, for those that are just finding out, again, like I said, I feel as though I was probably born in the wrong era. In today's society, it's almost a crime in itself to talk about being a man and being a real man, other than our boy Silas Young. Shout out to Silas.
That's right.
But there are just certain things that should be done and should not be done. And this segment here is all about common sense or lack thereof. And if you're not going to have common sense and if you're going to do things that are questionable, then it's going to be time for somebody to pull your man card and bring it to the front of the class. And that's exactly what we're doing today. So,
and real quickly, I just want to warn everybody out there listening, because we've got a pretty eclectic audience. We've got people we don't know. We've got people we do. A lot of you may come across our path. Just be aware that if you break these rules of engagement, you may very well hear yourself on this very Gus and Gus podcast having your man card snatched by Shane Taylor. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Watch your step, because Shane's watching yours.
It's real. You may have to pass it up. You may have to pass it up to the front of the class.
He may get me one time. You never know. Shane's watching everybody.
You never know. You never know. But the very first two people to pass their man cards up to the front of the class come from Sacramento, California. Sacramento police have gunned down a man in his grandmother's backyard for having a cell phone. Now, granted, the details of the case are still out there. He was.
I saw that, though. I saw what
breaking into cars. I guess he was breaking in the cars, what have you. And at no point am I justifying criminal behavior. The problem that I have is not that they engaged the guy, and it's not even that they shot the guy. It's this right here. When you when you see, or when you are dealing with people, okay, I do not understand the protocol after the fact. Sacramento police shot and killed Stephon Clark and shot him 20 times. 20. There was no gun. He had a cell phone in his hand. I have no idea what kind of training where a cell phone looks like a gun. But if you know the history of these things, even a big gulp from 7-Eleven at some point appears to be a weapon. So, when you play, and the video is out there for those that want to go look this up. Wasn't there some sort of thing back in the day where you had to fire like a warning shot, or there was some sort of protocol where it wasn't just a empty out your clip and then see what happens sort of thing? Like, I don't understand.
You know what, Gus? To put in context just a little bit more, because I know some of the details of what you're talking about, it was 60 seconds. It was just a hair under 60 seconds from the moment of the first sighting by police till 20 shots were fired and the man was dead. Less than 60 seconds. That is while it may be a lifetime in that situation, that is a relatively short period of time. And I get you, to go from 0 to 100 like that is it's really hard to justify, no matter what the situation is, but particularly when there's no real again, you don't want to ever take a risk of a single police officer taking a shot. But when you have the coverage and the ability to get 20 shots off in that quick of a period of time, I don't know what threat you're under in all reality.
Exactly, and that's my point too. But let's also keep in context and keep in mind the Parkland school shooter, after killing 17 people and knowing they had a gun, was taken alive. So, at what point does the status quo change for how you deal with people, especially black people? Because how and what? Someone please explain to me how a guy with a cell phone is more dangerous than a guy with an automatic weapon who already killed 17 people. Please explain it. Please justify it. Please make it make sense to me, because it doesn't. You have a guy who has killed 17 people They know he has a gun. It's not a question. We don't have to wonder. We know he does. And he was taken alive. And people are talking about his mental health versus a guy with a cell phone who broke some windows. Granted, criminal behavior nonetheless. But why is one deemed more violent than the other? I don't understand why in this nation, why my melanin content deems me more dangerous than an actual weapon. And I don't understand it. But more so than that, if you listen to the video and the ridiculous commentary after by the police, you shoot a man 20 times, he's not moving, and you say to him, "Sir, are you okay? You have to answer us before we can help you." You just shot him 20 times. I could knock somebody out with a punch, and they couldn't respond for me asking them, "Are they okay?" You just shot someone 20 times. How in the hell is he supposed to tell you, "I'm okay"? How in the hell is he supposed to put his hands up? How in the hell is he supposed to explain to you after being shot 20 times that it is now safe for you to come closer to him? It is absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely mind-numbing, and then people can't understand why guys like Colin Kaepernick did what they did. Meanwhile, the cop that shot the Australian lady, you remember that, Gus?
Oh, yes.
All right, remember that story? There was a black cop that shot an Australian lady. I believe she was in a nightgown or it was at night, and he killed her. He just got convicted of murder. That cop did. And for some people out there, they're going, "Well, isn't that what you wanted for cops to be held accountable?" Yes, it is. And you're absolutely right. The problem is people have never had to worry about the system working correctly when it comes to those situations. When I saw the case, I knew he was going to jail. I was like, all right, well, they'll get him. But what gets me is, where was Blue Lives Matter for him? Where were they at? There was no rallies, no one standing behind him saying he was just doing his job. None of that. Nobody coming to his rescue when, for him, fearing for his life. It's dark. There was a sudden movement, but yet the same attitude and the same energy is not directed, at him when it comes to when the roles are reversed. And that's the problem that most people have, because yes, we want the system to work. Yes, we want people to be held accountable. But if you're going to do it, don't just be selective in how you do it. It is not just okay for certain people to go to jail for crimes that other people get paid leave for. Wrong. That's wrong. I fully support that cop going to jail for murder. If you mess up at your job, there are consequences. When you are put in those positions of authority and you mess up, you should be held accountable. You should have a higher penalty because you are put in a trusted position. The problem that people have is that's not a uniform level of punishment. Because if it was, and people from every background were held to that standard, you wouldn't have to worry about people kneeling. You wouldn't have to worry about people protesting because there'd be nothing to protest. Because they could see with your actions that things are being taken care of, that justice is being served, that there's equal protection under the law. Equal protection of life. But when you have situations like this where the guy gets sent to prison for murder, or he's convicted of murder for shooting the Australian lady, and then guys get paid leave for shooting someone 20 times with a cell phone. So for that, and for the ridiculous commentary, and for the absolute idiocy at which, for that level of incompetence, they need to pass their man cards to the front of the class.
Pass them up, gentlemen. There it is. Each and every week, second half of the show, we'll do that. Sometimes heavy, sometimes it'll be a lot more light. Next week, he's probably going to get some dude at the Walmart that's got one of those man purse things or something like that. But I knew where you.
There's going to be a lot of those. A lot of those.
I knew where you were going with that one, so I thought that was the perfect setup. Speaking of going, hey, before we go, I wanted to do a couple of things. I'd asked earlier in the day for some Q&A from some different people, and we've got a couple of questions, and I want to ask those before we get off the air and talk about a couple of things. One of them, RJ, asked, well, the first part of his question is kind of already answered. He said, if we were to team up, what would we name our team? Obviously, we are the Cleveland Mafia, Daddy, but it said if we could wrestle anybody right now, who would we most like to work with right now? So I've got some ideas. I think our ideas are probably in the same ballpark, but I will definitely toss that in your direction. Who would you like to see us work with in 2018?
That's a very good question. I mean, there are a lot of guys that you could put in there, but if we're talking about, and if we're being selective of actual tag teams, I mean, you would want to start with the best. I mean, obviously you've got the 9-time now Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions, the Briscoes.
That's mine right there. That's mine, Gus. Yeah. I mean, I worked with Jay on that show, and it was just a small piece. We worked like not even 5 minutes, but it was enough that I'm like, man, Gus and I can do some damage with these guys, man. Like,
I mean, they are absolutely every bit as good as advertised. I've been in the ring with them on multiple occasions now, been blessed to do that, and they're 9-time Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions for a reason. I want to say former IWGP Tag Champs, if not twice, at least once. I'm not sure about that, but I know for sure at least once. And if we're and going all the tag teams, War Machine, obviously Ray Rowe and Hanson. I've been in the ring with them. You've been in the ring with them. So for me,
I've got the damage to prove it. I'll tell you what, Ray Rowe is one of my best friends out there, and I've never been injured more by anybody than I and not intentionally. I don't say that in any way disparagingly. Ray is so good to take care of you, but we have had a couple of fluke deals between the two of us, and I was joking. Matter of fact, I posted one of our matches yesterday. It came up in a memory, and I said, "Love hurts." Thank you, Facebook, for reminding me of this one, because this is what we do to each other. But they've thrown you around. Oh man, I love some of them deals you guys had with them with PBK. I love. Obviously, we've worked with Ray millions of times. You know who I want to work with? I would love for us to work with. I don't know. You know what? I do know who his partner would be. I would love to work with EC3. And Lil Spud, well, whatever they're calling him now in WWE or whatever. But those two are so entertaining off the mic. I mean, off the ring, on the mic, and in their vignettes and everything. Let alone what they do in the ring. Because when somebody says, "Who do you want to work with?" I don't just think about getting in the ring and throwing moves down with somebody. I think about the build up, the program, the type of promos you could do. All of that stuff, and that's one that could be pretty fun as well.
Absolutely. And it's obviously, I mean, when you talk about tag team wrestling, there are certain names that are just going to be on the list, on everybody's list. And when you talk about tag teams, of course, you got the Young Bucks. Of course, you have, Killer Elite Squad. You have, there are a lot of really, really good tag teams out out there. So, I mean, all of them are on the list. If we're talking about matchups where they can be singles guys and we can put them on a tag team for that night, one of mine would be Minoru Suzuki and Zack Sabre. Obviously, Zack Sabre just coming off the New Japan Cup win. Congratulations to him. Minoru Suzuki, the IWGP Intercontinental Champion right now. I was in a match with Kenny King and Jay Lethal against Suzuki and Killer Elite Squad, and got to throw hands a little bit with Suzuki, and he's every bit as dangerous as they say. But for me, that sort of style is very interesting to me. Being a striker and having guys that are not only great strikers, but in Zach's case, amazing submission guys. You know, and from my boxing background, it's always been an interesting striking versus grappler theory that I've had, because while submissions are great, you know, I've yet to see someone put one on while getting blasted in the face. So,
that's right.
You know what I mean? So it's always interesting to see which wins out. You know what I mean? So I think stylistically that's a great matchup.
I'll tell you what, I got two, Gus, and I'll tell you two that I'd really love for you and I to get to work with this year. And who knows, man, how many of these things may end up coming true. It's early in the year, baby, but the Machine Guns, obviously, I've worked. Yeah. People may not know this. They're such an amazing team together. They've got such great chemistry, but I've known Chris Sabin since he started in this business, and some of his first few months in the business matches, we ended up in a feud against each other. We were each probably less than a year. I might have been 2 years in the business. He was less than a year in the business, so I was the de facto veteran. But we were just two young guys going out there and doing every high spot we could think of. And, we thought they were hellacious matches. I'm sure that if we watched them back now, they wouldn't be as great. But, man, we definitely put some effort into him. And I just remember he was such a great kid, and he looked totally different. He wrestled in him and I were just talking about this recently. He wrestled in those pleather pants that was so the rage in the early 2000s on the indies. And he wasn't jacked yet. He was very young and had just begun lifting. And I remember he disappeared from the Cleveland area for a minute and was doing some stuff up north, and because he's out of Detroit. And man, he showed up in Nashville one time when John McChesney and I were down there for TNA. And he had the tights now. He had the look. He became, the Chris Sabin that he turned into. He had the six-pack. He was jacked, and he looked great. And he had the long hair now because he used to have real short hair. And, I mean, he was a star now. And, I mean, that kid, the thing is that he's been wrestling forever, and he's still so humble and down to earth. But I'd love to work with those guys again. And I'd love to come full circle and work with him now at this point in our careers. And another one just for fun, Rhett Titus and Will Ferrara. You got to work with the big dogs, man. Baby. Got to work with the big dogs. By the way, Rhett Titus, I talked to him the other day, and I have no problem putting things over that, some wrestlers just can't put other people's stuff over. But I was like, man, Ultimo Dragon. Rhett Titus is working with the Ultimo Dragon upcoming here on a show. I can't remember where it is, but it doesn't matter. Talk about bucket list stuff right there, Jushin Liger, Ultimo Dragon, stuff like that is wow, very rare, especially because Ultimo Dragon barely works anymore.
Exactly. I mean, so not only are you stepping into the ring with a legend, not only are you stepping into the ring with a guy that anybody in our profession would hero worship or idolize, but you're doing it in a way that gets to bring joy and bring emotion to as many people as you humanly can. So I mean, it's amazing to be to have chances like that, and I hope he kills it, which I know he will. And that's so happy for him.
Absolutely. Hey, real quick before we go, not having to I can't believe this. I stopped doing sports talk radio for this very reason. But I've got guys that want to literally ask us what you and I think the Browns should do with the number 1 and number 4 picks in the draft. I refuse to even say the word quarterback. I usually don't argue the running back thing, Gus, but man, Saquon Barkley sure strikes me as one of those once-in-a-generation type backs, and that's where you go, okay, that's definitely somebody. How do you pass him up? Even though, how stoked are you with the stuff? You know what? I haven't talked to you since the Browns went all buck wild in free agency. They traded half the roster away. Joe Thomas retired, so I guess I'm glad Ron and Bill, shout out to you guys, the non-brother Graham brothers on Facebook. Thanks for bringing it up, because I wanted to ask you, Gus, the Browns kind of go buck wild. Joe Thomas retires. They get Tyrod Taylor. They get Jarvis Landry. They sign Carlos Hyde. They revamp the entire offense. They get offensive linemen. They get defensive backs. And they still got that draft, man. Do you think these guys may possibly have gotten things going? I mean, they are right now. They kind of run the NFL right now with where they're positioned.
I mean, we were having such a good show, and I was on such a high, and then we had to go this, and damn it. Like, this is the thing. I want to have hope. I really do. So bad. I want to have hope. I want this to be the year that I can say, hey, they turned it around. But it really seems like around this time every year, and I know it's a little different this year, that they do this. They start getting you excited. They started talking about all the pieces that they're bringing in, all the things that they're putting together, and then they do what they do. And around week 5, we're like, why did we let them talk us into this again? Like, the Browns are like that old, that ex-girlfriend or boyfriend that you know is going to treat you bad, and they keep making, like, they just keep tricking you into giving them one more chance, and it's ridiculous.
It's like on Ricky Bobby when he calls up and he says, "Hey man, how you get the stereo and the TV to work at the same time?" And then he starts talking. "Stop tricking me into talking to you, man. I don't like you anymore." I was like, "But you're my best friend. You've already lost your wife. You've already lost your wife. Don't lose your best friend and your wife at the same time."
Exactly, and it's like, and you're like, I'm done with the Browns until they actively stop taking advantage of the best fan base in the NFL and put a winner on the field that the people want to see, and they start doing things like, well, we got Tyrod, and you're like, well, actually, wait, no, why am I talking to you? No, like like that's what they do. So I am happy that they are making the moves that they are making. We still don't know what the deal is with Josh Gordon, whether he's playing, whether he's not, whether he's traded, whether he's like. If he gets his act together, and granted, now this is now 2 years of being out of the league, so I don't think he's going to come back as the same player. Obviously, who could, but we'll see. My first option is to say you trade those picks and you get the world for them and you build your team that way. I feel as though we as a city, we as a culture of Browns football, as fans, we've waited long enough. Like, I don't need you to develop, guys. I just want y'all to go 9-7. I want y'all to, get in the playoffs, win a playoff game. I'm not asking for a Super Bowl. I'm not asking for an AFC championship. I'm not even asking for a division title. I'm really not. All I'm saying is
500. We'll take 500 right now.
Listen, you give me 500. You give me 9-7. I'm happy. You know what I'm saying? You give me competing for a division title. Oh. You give me competing for, in the conversation, in the hunt, if you will, of a division title. And I'm happy, right? The whole fan base is happy. No one's going to bitch about that. Nobody. But now I've got the Detroit Lions fan calling me going, hey, thanks for joining the 0-16 club. You know how infuriating that is?
I know.
You know how much that
they were the
pisses me
only
off?
ones. They were the only ones. Now,
you know what? Listen, like let's put this into perspective. Let's say you're at a bar, right? And over here on the right side of the bar, people are dressed nice. They're dancing. They're having a good old time. They've got some drinks flowing. It's a party atmosphere. And you look over to the left, and there's one person over there. Clothes are all disheveled, dirty as hell. You know what I'm saying? Look like they shouldn't be in the establishment. That is now the person welcoming you with open arms saying, hey, welcome to this club. That's how infuriating it is. That's how uncomfortable it is, right? So, like I said, Gus, it's you want to believe that they're going to do these things.
I'm going to wrap it up with this. Ron and Bill, Gus said you done ruined the whole podcast. You done ruined his week. He just got married, and that's your wedding gift to him, is you're going to take a damn fine podcast effort, and you're going to put it right into crapper talking about the Cleveland Browns.
Damn.
Why they do you like that?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe deep down they don't like me. Maybe deep down he is a Steelers sympathizer. I don't know.
Nah, they're big Browns fans, man. I mean, it's.
I know.
I'm with you, man. Every time you're out, they pull you back in. If you want to talk to Shane about it, if you want to ruin his day, tweet with him at Shane216Taylor all week long. Tweet me at J-Rocc Daddy, JROCC is the way you spell it. And we'll be back here a week from tonight, 7 p.m. next Thursday. We will jump back at this. Who knows when the hell we're going to be talking about it, but we're going to have some fun while we're doing it. Meanwhile, this weekend, make sure you check out Shane Wrestle Circus in Austin. Of course, God bless the town of Austin, and they're going to bring some quality entertainment there is Wrestle Circus, and Shane will be there against JT Dunn. I am up north in West Newton, Pennsylvania, well, north of Texas, but it's actually southeast of Cleveland. But I'll be in RWA territory, West Newton, Pennsylvania, in a triple threat match taking on Daniel Eads and Shane Andrews for the RWA Championship. Check out WrestleCircus.com or RWA Pro on Facebook and get all the information about those. We'll be back here next Thursday. Of course, so much more to get into. Gus, what else? Anything else you want to talk about or holler about before we get out the door here? It's been an extended episode, but hell, we are hitting the ground hard, and it's been a hell of a night, man.
Oh, yeah. And for everybody know, the podcast will not always be this long. Yes, we will get it tightened up. Yes, we will get it shortened up. But I got hot today. I was on hot fire today, and I had to get some things off my chest because
somebody said something about getting fired up. Hey,
that's the old Tracy, baby. That
ain't Tracy. I'm Tommy Rich. Hey.
Oh, I thought that was Tracy. He used to say that all the time.
Nowadays, Tracy's pretty close to Tommy, but come on, man. You lost your man card. What wrestler don't know who getting fired? Man, there's only one person in the world that says somebody said something about getting fired up, man. I'm revoking your man card.
Hold on.
I'm at least revoking your wrestler license for that.
Tracy does that all the time, and you know he does, so let's not even
act like that. He gets half hot. Tracy gets half hot. There's a difference. Tracy gets half hot. Okay. Tracy gets half hot. Tommy Rich says something about getting fired up.
There you go. Oh,
I love you, Gus. Hell of a week, man. Hell of a week. Congratulations, my man, of course. And good stuff, as always. Ring of Honor, The Crash. Hey, speaking of Ring of Honor, for those of you out there so inclined, my latest foray into Ring of Honor is airing right now across their social media and on Ring of Honor Honor Club, the Future of Honor match. So let me know what you thought of that. And we will be back here next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Shane Taylor and myself, Gus and Gus, will be back. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to eat the world and its money right here on the Gus and Gus podcast. We'll see you next week, Daddy. Take it easy, Gus.
You too, Gus. Keep it beautiful.
Keep it beautiful. And keep your head up. We'll see you next week.
Stay in touch with Gus and Gus on Twitter and Instagram 24/7 at Shane216 Taylor, at J-Rocc Daddy, that's J-R-O-C-C Daddy on Instagram and Twitter.
Gus and Gus eat the world and its money. Brought to you by our good friends at ProWrestlingTees.com, where you can get great designs from yours truly, J-Rocc Daddy, and the big homie, Shane Taylor. Whether you want to get the one-punch Shane, knockouts for everyone, or many of Big Shane Teasy's designs, go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Shane Taylor. And of course, yours truly has the Give It Up One Time shirt. Popular logos on there mixed in with the Big Daddy of Destruction flavor. All of that and more at ProWrestlingTees.com/J-Rocc, J-R-O-C-C. So whether it's Big Shane Taylor or the Big Daddy of Destruction, go to ProWrestlingTees.com and pick up one of our shirts or one of the many great shirts they've got there. ProWrestlingTees.com/Shane Taylor, ProWrestlingTees.com/J-Rocc. Give it up one time, and thank you for supporting the Gus and Gus podcast and ProWrestlingTees.com.